What happens when a man believes he's chosen by God to set his people free, no matter the cost? In the brutal world of 19th century American slavery, one man made a decision that would forever alter the course of history. His name was Nat Turner. He wasn't a general or a politician. He was a preacher, a slave, a man with a vision. And in 1831 he led the most infamous and deadly slave uprising in the history of the United States. But what drives someone to risk everything? Life, soul, salvation, for rebellion? To answer that, we have to understand the world Nat Turner lived in. The child who read the Bible by candlelight, born into bondage in Southampton County, Virginia, in 1800, Nat Turner showed signs of brilliance from a young age. While enslaved children were often denied even the most basic education, Turner stood apart. He learned to read and write, highly unusual and dangerous skills for someone in his position. But his literacy was not used for escape plans or coded messages. It was used to read the Bible. For Turner, scripture wasn't just faith, it was fire. He believed God spoke directly to him, and those around him did too. He was seen as a prophet, a spiritual leader, but while he preached humility, patience, and faith, Turner also carried a growing weight: the unbearable injustice of slavery. He watched families torn apart, saw lashes tear flesh, and knew with increasing certainty that God did not intend for this world to remain unchanged, a path toward rebellion. Over time, Turner's inner world became a battleground of morality, prophecy, and rage. He claimed to see visions, signs in the sky, messages from heaven telling him that he had been chosen to lead his people to freedom. These weren't mere thoughts, they were convictions. By 1831, he believed the time had come. In secret, he began gathering a small group of enslaved men, those he trusted with his life. Over months, they prayed, planned, and waited. Then, on August the 21st, the skies darkened under a solar eclipse, an event Turner saw as a divine signal they made their move. The night everything changed. What followed was a wave of fury that would shake the foundations of the southern slaveholding world. Turner and his followers began at the Travis plantation where Turner himself had been enslaved. Armed with axes, knives, and a few firearms, they killed the family and continued to nearby farms, freeing some slaves and killing many slaveholders, including women and children. In total, around 55 white individuals were killed in just over 48 hours. But this wasn't chaos for chaos's sake. Turner believed he was enacting divine justice. In his eyes, this was a holy war, the inevitable retaliation. News of the rebellion spread like wildfire. Terrified white militias quickly mobilized, and within days the revolt was crushed. Turner himself evaded capture for nearly 2 months, hiding in the woods. Eventually he was found, tried, and hanged on November the 11th, 1831. But the rebellion didn't end with Turner's death. In the days and weeks that followed, white mobs retaliated savagely. An estimated 200 black people, many with no connection to the rebellion, were slaughtered across Virginia. The entire South was gripped by fear. A nation reacts crackdowns and consequences. Southern states responded with brutal crackdowns. Laws became harsher. It became illegal for enslaved people to gather without white supervision. Teaching slaves to read was banned in many areas. The message was clear: never again. But something else happened too. Something the South didn't expect. In the North, the Turner rebellion lit a fire. Abolitionists take notice. For many abolitionists, especially those on the fence, Turner's rebellion was a turning point. It shattered the myth that enslaved people were content or passive. It revealed the deep, boiling rage that lay just beneath the surface of plantation life. Some began to argue not just for gradual emancipation, but for immediate abolition. Was Turner rebellion violent? Absolutely. Was it justified? That question divided the country then and still does today, a legacy of blood and resistance. So how should we remember Nat Turner? To some, he was a murderer, a man who crossed moral lines by killing innocents. To others, he was a freedom fighter, a revolutionary who refused to accept a life of chains and submission. He is often compared to figures like John Brown, who would take up arms against slavery decades later. But what makes Turner's story so powerful is its unflinching confrontation with the truth. Slavery was not just an economic system. It was a living nightmare, and for some, the only way out was through fire. Symbolism beyond the grave. Nat Turner, rebellion didn't end slavery, it didn't even shake its foundations immediately, but it exposed its fragility. It forced Americans, especially white Southerners, to reckon with the possibility of insurrection at any moment. And for African Americans, Turner became a symbol of strength, defiance, and spiritual resilience. His story was passed down through generations, not always proudly, not always publicly, but always with a sense of gravity. Why Turner still matters. Today, nearly 2 centuries later, we still wrestle with the legacy of Nat Turner. He was a deeply religious man who believed he was doing God's will, yet his actions were undeniably violent. Was he a prophet, a terrorist, a revolutionary? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. But what certain is, this Nat Turner story forces us to ask hard questions about justice, morality, and how far people are willing to go when pushed to the edge. Would you fight for freedom, even if it meant blood on your hands? That's the question Nat Turner asked himself, and his answer changed history. Thanks for being part of this deep dive into one of the most controversial figures in American history. If you found this story compelling, stay connected as we continue exploring the people and events that shaped the world we live in today.